Good evening, Rahul.
Objection if Mr. Mondal is fundamentally against Section 295A and supports the freedom of expression of anyone who says anything against anyone's religion, from Salman Rushdie to Charlie Hebdo journalist, to Nupur, who incidentally quoted Islamic scriptures, to this film director who has portrayed the goddess Kali in the light that she feels. But the problem is hypocrisy. That is the issue. Because those supporting the woman who offended religious sensibilities of Hindus today were till last week demanding the arrest of a woman for offending the religious sensibilities of Muslims. इनकी ये समझ में नहीं आता है कि भैया this is hypocrisy and it is mind-boggling. In fact, it is institutional. Rahul, you know one op-ed intellectual who writes every Sunday, who till recently supported Salman Rushdie, like all of us did, but now calls him Islamophobic. Read his column. He called him Islamophobic and no longer supports him. Because if he did, then he'd also have to support Nupur Sharma, and he doesn't want to do this. This is what passes off as intellect in this country. क्या करें? करें तो करें क्या? When it comes to Islam, do you remember how Prime Minister Manmohan Singh on the floor of our parliament demanded an apology from Denmark for the Prophet cartoons? Remember how Sonia Gandhi publicly apologized to his Shahi Imam of Jama Masjid for them? But when it comes to Hinduism, it's a free-for-all. I guess Hindus are today tired of selective targeting and this hypocrisy. Secularism, I'm afraid, is not a one-way street. If it isn't the popular discourse, the stand-up comics, the tweets mocking Hinduism, the Tanishq ad, or the Red Label ad where it projected a Hindu as bigoted and non-accepting of his Muslim neighbor, it is done by parties like the DMK or TMC or the Congress. All those Gaumutra jibes, Shivling jokes, terming Hindu god Parashuram as a terrorist and a rapist, claiming Hindu epics are replete with misogyny and Me Too instances, celebrating Tipu Jayanti despite knowing that he demolished hundreds of temples and converted and butchered lakhs of Hindus. And who can forget the phrase saffron terror, or that the fact that communal violence bill where only the majority, i.e. Hindus, even in Kashmir, where they are minority, would be held guilty in a communal riot. Rahul, if we are talking of mainstreaming hate, why are we as a nation so scared to even make public the preachings that render Abrahamic religions exclusivist and supremacist? So although I'm not for banning any ad or any stand-up comic or film that mocks Hinduism or Hindu gods, because there are so many, especially lately, it would be a good idea for the makers to append their creative works with a small print that says, quote, yes, we are mocking Hindu beliefs and Hindu gods because we can. And Hindus have always accepted this. We dare not mock Islam or its practices or its prophet or God, because if we do, we'll be beheaded like or killed like Charlie Hebdo journalist or Kamlesh Tiwari. In fact, we are too scared to even support an alleged blasphemer, because even that harmless act of solidarity will get us beheaded like Kanhaiya Lal or Kole. Just this simple small print will assuage the Hindus and make the Muslims realize that we all live in a country that used to cherish the freedom to criticize religion, and where the punishment for apostasy or for being a kafir is not death. Explain, Rahul, I need a couple of minutes from my esteemed panelists, because I've been listening to this very enchanting discussion, and can I just say that I'm a little bit disappointed by the comments of two of my esteemed panelists. One of them seems to be suggesting that he is for prosecution for offending religious sensibilities, but despite him being a believer in the grey, he has the right to decide something which is totally subjective as to what is an offense and what is not, thereby being a hypocrite. And the other panelist seems to be suggesting what is art and what is not. In order to cushion their own hypocrisy, they are going around in circles as though their one leg is shorter than the other. Can I remind this person who is delineating for us what is and what isn't art, that 1965 Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded to Mr. Robert Burns Woodward for, and I quote, the art in organic synthesis. He synthesized the chlorophyll, and the Nobel Committee said that is art. What is science is also art, and what is art is also science. So please do not get on all these demarcations. Now, Rahul, with your permission, because the matter is very philosophical, you know, can I please have a couple of minutes? I'm sure you will like what I have to say.
Yeah.
Can I please?
2 minutes. Yes. 2 minutes, please. Yeah.
You've only spoken
Thank
once. Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, because the matter is not about 295A. The matter is about hypocrisy. If you are not an absolutist in free speech, then you will delve into the gray. And the problem is that the hate that some have towards free speech absolutists is like the hate believers have towards atheists, apostates, and rationalists. Heck, there is even a psychiatric term for it. It's called guilt of inadequacy. They feel embarrassed at being irrational and therefore inadequate, believing, for example, in flying horses and immaculate conception and walking on water, when science tells you that it is impossible. And because they fear being exposed as hypocrites, they label free speech as a utopian concept. Opponents of free speech are believers of the gray, because that lets them wallow in their hypocrisy worse. They inadvertently support Nehru for curbing free speech through the First Amendment.
Yeah.
They love it when they condemn someone for offending a particular religious sensibility, but hate it when one of their own or they themselves are condemned for offending religious sensibility. This is what is classic subjectivity and the gray, and of course the guilt of inadequacy.
And
Because of free speech, absolutists never condemns anyone for, quote, offending religious sensibilities, for the simple reason that who decides what is offensive and what is not?
Yeah.
Of course, free speech absolutism comes with a few commonsensical exceptions. In the name of free speech, for example, you can't divulge state secrets. You can't scream fire in a crowded theater. You can't incite and lead a mob to violence. You can't defame someone's reputation with false details. That's where defamation suit comes in. But all else is kosher. I ask you, the purveyors of guilt of inadequacy, think for once. How can freedom be subject to public order or decency or offending religious sensibilities? Are you going to ban Naga sadhus from appearing in public now? Are you going to be offended by my saying that the earth is not flat or wasn't made in 6 days? The second aspect of hypocrisy of the haters of free speech absolutists, Rahul, is their inability to think rationally. Out of fear and embarrassment, for example, just 30 seconds, they oppose the abrogation of 295 despite knowing very well that out of tens of thousands charged under 295, only a handful are really at risk of beheading. An overwhelming majority have forwarded some snarky post or made a quip or uploaded a Photoshop, and yet these are the ones whose lives are destroyed by 295 because they offended religious sensibilities. Let me provide just two examples. 21-year-old Sunny Gupta was charged with 295A and jailed for 45 days. You know what his crime was? He asked people to, quote, not visit Ajmer Sharif. That's it. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, who was clearly being sarcastic when he commented in front of a temple, was jailed for 40 days. He came out suffering debilitating health issues, requiring multiple surgeries. Put yourself in their shoes or the shoes of their relatives, and then you will realize the absurdity of this law, gentlemen and ladies. Leave aside the argument of free speech absolutism for a second. These tens of thousands are mere collateral for you. Well, I guess this is comeuppance for Ms. Mahua Moitra, who, under the best of times, is second only to WhatsApp in spreading rumors and lies. Talk of karma boomeranging spectacularly. Because a few weeks ago, she was the one stormtrooping every event and conclave, demanding Nupur Sharma's arrest for offending religious sensibilities. And today she is the one facing arrest for offending religious sensibilities. Thing with this law, Rahul, or 295 or 153 is that you can't reason with it because it is subjective and gray. How can you counter anyone who says, yes, I am a Hindu and I have been hurt by what Mahua said? Because wasn't Mahua hurt by what Nupur merely quoted Islamic scriptures? उनको दुख हुआ तो और किसी को दुख नहीं हो सकता. ये स्टैंड है. ये कैसा लॉजिक है भाई? Two issues here, Rahul, and both merit going into. Number one, the hypocrisy, I tell you, is mind-boggling. In fact, it is institutional. When it comes to Islam, remember how PM Manmohan Singh on the floor of our parliament demanded an apology from Denmark for the Prophet cartoons. Remember how Sonia Gandhi publicly apologized to the Shahi Imam of Jama Masjid. But when it comes to Hinduism, it's a free-for-all. If it isn't the popular discourse, the stand-up comics, the tweets mocking Hinduism, the ads, then it is done by parties like the DMK or TMC or Congress, all those Gaumutra jibes, as Miss Sanju said, or terming Hindu god Parashuram a terrorist and a rapist, celebrating Tipu Jayanti of that mass murderer Tipu. Let's look at Mahua and her party. Let me give you just facts. Did TMC change Ramdhenu to Wrongdhenu and Mahua kept quiet? Yes. Did she say Batla encounter was fake? Yes. Did she oppose CAA that brought relief to persecuted Hindus? Yes. Did she appoint a Muslim on Tarkeshwar Temple Board? Yes. Did she provide midday meal dining hall for only those schools having 70% or more minority students? Yes. Did she curtail the time duration traditionally permit for Durga idol immersion to make way for Muharram? Yes. Did she grant 2.6 crores of taxpayers' money to Furfura Sharif? Yes. Did she promise to give land to imams for construction of houses? Yes. Did she pay more than 30,000 imams exclusively, 2,500 per month, and over 15,000 muezzins, 1,500? Yes. Number two, the second issue. Look, as a free speech absolutist, Rahul, and someone who wants 295A scrap, I am not for banning any ads or tweet or arresting Mahua or discourse or any stand-up comic or film that mocks Hinduism or Hindu gods. It'd be a good idea for hypocrites, for like Mahua, to at least acknowledge that, yes, quote, yes, we are mocking Hindu beliefs and Hindu gods because we can. We dare not mock Islam because if we do, we'll be beheaded or killed like Charlie Hebdo journalist or Kamlesh Tiwari. In fact, we are too scared to even support now an alleged blasphemer because even that harmless act of solidarity will get us beheaded like Kanhaiya or Kole. And as for Mahua, now distancing itself from the TMC and vice versa, well, her intellect, I have to be very honest, shines like carbon paper inside a coal mine. She is like that Titanic, launched amid great fanfare by Didi, sailed for 5 days in the calm ecosystem waters, and then encountered the iceberg in the shape of social media.
Yes. Yes.
No, Rahul,
Yeah.
Rahul, just 30 seconds. Number one, because you asked me very politely that I challenged Miss Mahua Moitra, and I said that she's second only to WhatsApp in spreading rumors and lies, and you said, do you have a account of that? And I said, yes, in the next program or whenever I can bring those live. I want to tell you just one of the lies busted, where she accused President Kovind of inaugurating or launching Subhash Chandra Bose's portrait, saying that it was actually an actor. So that was a complete lie that was busted. So it's just one of possibly hundreds of lies of Mahua Moitra, and I've just exposed that lie. Secondly, a very simple question to Miss Meeta.
Okay.
She is well within her rights. Well within her rights, Meeta ji, to say that what Mahua said, I support. But likewise, you are a woman. You know how much Nupur is suffering. Yes. Why can't you say, challenge those accusing her of blasphemy to say, why don't you quote what Nupur quoted, the Islamic scriptures? There you won't help Nupur, but you would help Mahua. Why? Why this discrimination, madam?